and welcome to the Sunset Safari, where once again on these gloomy days it promises not to really have a sunset. But you never know, this cold front might clear and the sun might decide to start poking through. It's getting there. But for those of you who are joining us for the first time, we are coming to you live from Djuma, Arathusa and Cheetah Plains Game Reserves in the Sabi Sand in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon I have Wiem on camera with me. And Wiem, I'm surprised we haven't spotted a lion already. It's usually how our afternoons go. We drive out 5 minutes out of camp and there's a lion sitting there. And today they're disappointed. They just haven't been around. But you can. We're not only live, but we are also interactive, which means send through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter. Now, those of you who are regular viewers will know that we are currently amping up for this weekend's TV shows, where we will be live to television in the United States. What that means is we're going to be doing some kind of weird things this afternoon every now and again. Whenever I say to you that we're going to see you after the break, or something amazing could happen before, but you have to stay tuned, never fear, you're not going anywhere. It's just practicing so that I don't gobble up my timing when it comes down to advertisements on television. For those of you who will be watching on the internet, that is of no way a concern. Right, now for those of you who missed it, just on the subject of television, we had a slightly foreshortened sunrise safari so that we could do some rehearsals and practice in secret and, you know, make all the mistakes that we'd rather not make in front of a larger audience. That's what we were up to this morning. But if you missed it, I have really, really exciting news, because lo and behold, I think we have a new active hyena den. It's not our current set of cubs that we've been watching over the last few months. They have most definitely moved into Simbambili, but it is the mother of the twins from last year, February, so cast your minds back in time. Or, if you've only started watching recently, she's a very low-ranking female hyena who I saw being disciplined by some of the high-ranking females a couple of months ago with Brian, and they were pulling on her ears and nipping at her bottom, as is the wont with hyenas when they have something of a clan skirmish. We will be returning there this afternoon and waiting to see. She was sitting at the entrance to the den. She kept standing up and looking into it, sitting down again, exactly what Madam did at the start of the year before the two brand new little January twins wandered out. Now that, in theory, is my plan, as you know, because it's live and because it's unscripted. We never quite know exactly where the afternoon is going to take us. A serval could come dashing across the road. Or not, but a serval could come dashing across the road at any point, at which point all plans go completely out of the window and we rethink everything that we have started off by doing. While we go and scour the western side of Djuma, Brent Leo Smith and Brian Joubert are out and about on the boat, the newly refurbished boat. Let's find out what their plans are for the afternoon.
Welcome to today's Sunset Safari, and there's a buffalo crossing the road, and Brian Joubert and myself, and of course the Thumb, are sailing the center of Djuma at the moment. And we're sailing past not a common animal to be seen from a boat, the Cape buffalo. Now this particular individual is a bedraggled old buffalo bull, referred to as a Dugger boy. Now the reason he's called a Dugger boy, if we look up on his back, you see all that mud caked on him. Dugger is a sort of colloquial African word for cement, and the Dugger boys were quite famous in the mining industry of South Africa. They were incredibly strong, so at most places in the world, this was obviously in the 1800s, these days people use concrete cement mixers. There were no such things then, so it was all done by manual labor. And those particular men who mixed the cement had a large reputation for being very, very strong, aggressive, and quick to anger. Were famous for knife fights and all-night binges, but incredibly physically strong from mixing the cement. Now these Dugger boys are old. Oh, kudu alarm calling. Okay, well, I'm going to talk about the Duggar boy, but we need to get there. It could be Karula. Maybe she's done a loop around again. So, the Duggar boys, these old gentlemen that live away from the breeding herds, are pretty tough, and they can also be quite aggressive. So that's why you got to be careful for them when you're on foot, when you're in the boat, sailing through the bushveld. You're quite safe. But now we're hoping we're going to find what those kudu are alarm calling. It could be a lion, could be a leopard. I think it's more than likely a leopard. It sounds like it's on Zoe's road. No, Rebecca's road, beg your pardon. Let's get there and see what's happening. As the rust bucket, this is my first of the boat, and we will be sailing through the African wilderness on this sunset safari. Now, not only do I have a Brian Joubert on the camera, we have Harold Master. So if we find any tracks of big cats, we will drop Herbert off. He will venture off into the wilderness on foot to try find those cats for us. For whatever those kudu were along calling at, let's go back to Jamie.
While Brent hurries off to follow up on those alarm calls, you see, I told you. Plans just go straight out of the window the minute you get out here. Now, we're not too far away from where Brent is. And what we'll do is we'll start sort of, not circling, but we'll try and take a sort of a wider route around him, just to see whether or not we can pick up on whatever it is that has upset that kudu, or at least give him a hint as to what he might be looking for in terms of spotting tracks. But before we do that, let's go and have a look at one of the, I always think of them as sort of almost like the models of the antelope world, especially the males. And I'm talking about a male Nyala that I saw somewhere here. Now, Brent's just trying to get hold of me on the Game Drive channel, so bear with me 1 second. Standing by. Oh, no, Nyala, going that way. All right. Copy, I'm coming power lines now. It will take me a little while to get there, but I'll check from there. Sorry guys, I know this is really exciting, but you sort of have a limited opportunity to spot these sorts of things, especially if it's Karula, who was around Djuma this morning after we closed down the sunrise safari. So let's have a quick look at this male Inyala, who is very much on the move. Isn't he absolutely gorgeous? The cousin of the kudu that Brent could hear barking. And you can sort of see what I mean when I say they are the models of the antelope world. They've got that very slow, almost exaggerated walk. And especially the males when they're doing their display dance. There's all kinds of alarm calls happening now. I'm just going to see what's going on. Take one last look at our beautiful kudu and his hooves, because it gives us an opportunity to answer Charlotte's question. Charlotte is watching in Port Elizabeth and has seen horses' hooves change in the way that they grow. Sometimes they split, sometimes they grow out after a disease or something similar. And I'm sorry, Charlotte, bear with me 1 second. Copy that. I'm a little bit far to get there, but I'll try and give you a hand in a moment. So guys, Haha. Brent has been following up on those alarm calls. Over to Brent and his leopard.
So we found it. It looks like Mvula, the male leopard who used to dominate over most of Djuma, and he was spotted by those kuru while he was trying to hunt them. Is it Mvula? No. I think it could be Tingana. I thought it might be Mvula just from who's been around. But I'm trying to look at the ears. Mvula's got very tatty ears. Why don't you guys let me know which leopard this is? I'm leaning towards Tingana now that I've had a closer look. But I'm sure a lot of you guys are far quicker on the leopard identification than I am. So we are in the boat, and the boat doesn't sail through drainage lines or river systems as well as the little vehicles. We will try to stick with them. No, I think this is Tingana. Hello, big boy. Now, he's a magnificent male leopard. He's our dominant male, and please don't go too far down there. This is not good, smooth sailing area for the boat. Looks like he's got a little bit of a limp, but nothing too serious. There we go, confirmation from Raisa. It is Tingana. Now I'm just going to call Jamie quickly. She's in the other vehicle. We might lose him through here. This is definitely not boat country. I'm going to try and keep an eye on him for as long as possible. He's gone through the little river system here. And there he is. Almost looking back going, ha ha, you can't follow me. So I'm just going to call Jamie. Jamie.
Standing by.
Jamie, what's your position?
Bala Road, do you want a hand?
IFM, he's heading towards Philemon's through that very steep little section of two drainages, and I can't get the vehicle through there. I'm going to try to stick with him, but I'm about to lose visual, but he is heading generally towards Philemon's cut line between, probably just to the north of Shabam Junction. Okay, so we're just going to get Jamie into the area to give us a hand. It's, oh, nearly got a thorn in the side of the head there. We're going to try and find a spot where we might possibly be able to get through this little river system. There we go. That's looking a little bit better for sailing. You're holding on, guys. Isn't this exciting? What a way to start the sunset safari with a bang from a leopard. Oh, he is looking a bit hungry, and Andreen noticed that. That was quite sore. I had thorns in my back there. Now, this is where decisions come in, Andreen. We've got to try to find a way through here, but I know there's another drainage system on the other side. Okay, there we go. Herbert spotted him from the back. He's actually gone that way, and we're going to try to stick with him. As I said, this is quite challenging in the boat. I think I do see a gap though. Here we go. Just sneak through. Excuse me. Now hopefully we're going to be able to climb up here. That looks quite steep. There, we've got him. He's right up ahead of us. But now, this is not ideal boating country.
Friend JB, good afternoon. I'm out now. I'll check how the holes now.
Okay, but fortunately I'm experienced captain, and we're sailing through some rough sea at the moment, but it looks like we're going to come out of it on the other side. And there we go. Smooth sailing-ish from now on.
We're crossing south towards the country.
Sorry, JB, what did you say?
Brent had visual of I don't know anywhere.
There we go. So we're back with him. Slightly more calm seas as we move through here. Just going to pop up ahead of him. Now he is a magnificent specimen. He is a very big male leopard, and when they get to this really big dominant stage, you can have a look under his throat, and you can see he's got a dewlap. There you see he's limping a little bit, but that is not uncommon. It's quite hard to bring down some of the creatures that live here for a meal. Lots of different defense mechanisms. And he is particularly fond of warthog, which is one of the more dangerous of the prey species to hunt. At the moment, he's not really hunting, he's meandering, but if he happened to spot a potential prey species up ahead, he would definitely have an attempt at that. I'm just going to let everyone know that we've got him again. Stations, we've relocated on this Wanunengwe. He's now on Philemon's cut line, just to the south of the pump house. Isn't he beautiful? He definitely could use a meal. And you can see there's a bit of loose skin on his belly, and that's what you can see. He's a bit hungry. And also just behind his back leg, you see it concaves in a little bit. That means he's not too full. And isn't he magnificent? There you can see that distinct dewlap. Oh, there we go, underneath his neck there. Now, male leopards have a lot thicker necks and a lot more loose skin around their necks than a female leopard. And this is to help them when they do fight. So they need a little bit of protection around that area. So he's about to go into some rough seas again. So we will try keep abreast of him. And Brian, what's the nautical term for left and right? It's stern and starboard and port. So we're gonna sail starboard in an southerly direction. But we'll definitely try to stay with this leopard. Now he's the dominant male leopard in our area, and it still might be worth getting Jamie to come into this area. What you should do is you should probably head towards Treehouse Dam, and he might pop out there. So we're about to disappear for a few short minutes into an ad break. So before we do that, let's have one last look at him as he moves through. There he goes. And be sure to stay tuned for the ad, or straight back after the ad. If you miss anything, we'll show you a replay. Okay, so obviously guys, we are practicing for TV this weekend. So we just are going to be running ad breaks, even though you might be a bit confused why I was talking about an ad break there. So far, a very successful first outing for the killer bees in the boat. So it's the triple bees, the killer bees on the boat, So we've been quite lucky. We've seen 2 big male leopards in the last few days. Now, Mvula, who used to be the dominant male in this area, and now Tingana, who is the dominant male. Whoopsie daisies. I'm sorry, guys. We've got to get used to sailing in the boat. There we go. The aerial popped down. We're just popping it up again. Don't worry, I've still got sight of the leopard. Now he is heading towards the area where Queen Karula was seen late this morning by the other game drive vehicles, but she was heading to the south. Okay, I'm going to go through some choppy water here. Very short little rough patch of sea before we come into a nice little calm spot where we can get a nice view of the Tingana, the dominant male leopard. So Aaron was wondering, if they happened to come across each other, what would happen? Would Mvula try stay and fight, or would he run away? If he had the option, Aaron, he would run away. Tingana is a few years younger and in magnificent condition in comparison to him, and he would definitely make a gap for it. But if he happened to be caught in a place, in a tree or whatnot, where he had to fight, he would fight till he was able to make an escape. So he's going into a very thick monkey orange thicket. So I'm going to try and move around it. And as I say, my first time at captaining the boat, so I get to get used to it. Okay, so I think we're going to go across to Jamie while we try and negotiate through this rough patch.
In order to help Brent out while he goes through the rough patch, Liam and myself have raced from the top northwestern corner, and we are on our way to help him out. I'm just trying to work out exactly where he is and exactly where I should be. So I've come through to Treehouse Dam, which is basically where Karula was left this morning. So we better slow down here. I don't want to risk missing a visual of a spotted cat, a male or female variety. I just need to chat to Brent quickly and see where he wants me to go. Standing by. Copy that, thank you. Welcome back. Now, when you left us, we were on the search for the male leopard, Tingana. Brent was trying to get through some really difficult vegetation to make his way towards Treehouse Dam. So what we've done is we've raced all the way from the top northwestern corner of Djuma, and we've arrived here to wait for him to see if he's not going to pop out. Everybody waiting with bated breath, because Brent said he was heading straight for the water at Treehouse Dam. Now, I know that you may be thinking to yourself, what water? Well, I promise you there is water in Treehouse Dam, in the newly refurbished Treehouse Dam. The elephants, it's one of the dams that sits on a natural seep line, which means that the elephants have actually dug holes in certain places and brought water up from underground to the surface. I'm just listening really carefully to see if we can't hear Brent. He is busy communicating to me on the Game Drive channel as well. It seems as though, for the moment, Tingana has halted his movement and is taking a moment to just have a break. Now we'll go and have a look at our wonderful dominant male leopard having a bit of a rest on a termite mound.
So we managed to catch up with him, and he's sitting atop a large termitaria. Now, it's not uncommon for leopards to do that. It gives them a nice bit of high ground to survey what's coming up ahead. Now, there is some natural seeps at the treehouse waterhole up ahead, so there could be possibility of impala and other animals down towards there. And he's just stopping before he's got there. You can see he's still quite alert, looking about.
Last known position.
So I'm just going to let Jamie know where Karula was last seen, just so she can go have a look. Just to the, I suppose, the north of the southern boundary, between, probably 200 meters, no, maybe a bit more, 500 meters, above Shabam Junction. No, sorry, below Shabam Junction, between Shabam and Weaver's Nest.
Copy that, thanks. I'll be on the standby to help if you need me, but I'm gonna go check another boundary.
Copy, thanks. So Jamie's going to go look for Queen Karula. She is the dominant female leopard in our area, and it looks like Tingana is going to have a little bit of a rest.
If you viewpoint south from the dam wall, you can see the Dulu of Jackal-Berry on top. She parked that Jackal-Berry.
Look at him looking at us. And Aaron in New Zealand is saying, well, there's two things. One, you cannot predict the weather and a leopard's movements. I've heard a slightly different one, Aaron, and it was from I think I'm going to err on the side of caution today and keep that one for a rainy day. So with the big cats, they do spend a lot of their time sleeping. So on average about 18 hours a day. Oops, I've lost my radio. I don't know where it's gone. It's fallen down while we're sailing through the rough seas. I've got it back now. So we've had quite a few different male leopards in the time I've been at Safari Live. And Marisha in Texas is referring to the last successful litter that Karula had. It was 2 male leopard, Quarantine and Kunuma. So she's asking, when they come of age, would they possibly challenge their father? Now, to say who their father is a very bold statement. I know a lot of people think it is Mvula, but it could quite possibly be another leopard. So female leopards will mate with multiple males over the course of their estrus cycles, and to try and show all the males in the area think that they happen to be the daddy. So in this circumstance, there's a strong possibility that Mvula is the father, but it's not a guarantee. He's already been pushed out of his core territory and by Tingana, so he's become a nomadic male, slightly different from a dispersal male. So Quarantine and Kunuma are dispersal male leopards. It means that they have been pushed away from their mother's territory, and they now need to move further on to make a territory of their own. And generally that can be quite a distance away from their mother's territory. Now that's to ensure that there's not too much inbreeding. Although inbreeding in big cats is not nearly as dire as in some other species, and they can inbreed for quite a few generations before there's any negative sort of side effects. But generally they will not challenge for territory within their mother's natal territory. They normally will be a couple of territories over. Not to say that it is impossible. Now, I have heard of leopards that have managed to survive, and generally with male leopard takeovers and a bit of confusion and whatnot, that have managed to set up territory in their mother's natal territory. But that is very unusual. And of course, they will end up mating with their mothers and their sisters and half-sisters. So I've just got to be on the radio again quickly. Afternoon, Aubrey. I've got Tingana in the block between Savages and Philemon's Cutline. Best access will be from Savages, probably about 150 meters from Treehouse Mighty. So even though he is even though he's resting, he's still very much aware of what's around him, and he is definitely keeping a lookout. Oh, lovely, Brian. Brian's giving you some silhouettes there. Now, I hope you guys are getting some fantastic screenshots. If you hear some clickety-clickety, that's just me doing the same. And here we go, clickety-clickety. And please share your screenshots with us. And you can do that on our Facebook page, which is Safari Live, or pop it on Twitter with the hashtag Safari Live.
Yeah, bro.
Well, Killer Bee's back in a fine vein of form. I'm captaining the boat this sunset safari. Brian is my first officer, isn't it? First mate. First mate. Ayara, yes. Should we be pirates since we're on a boat? We are safari pirates. Well, we've got the long hair, Brian. You've got the bandana. That's very piratey. And Herbert's first officer. Yeah, so we've got a full array of... Maybe I should be admiral rather than captain. I like the sound of that. Admiral. Yes, I like that. Admiral of the fleet. Well, consisting of one boat. Well, you've got to start small.
Exactly.
Apparently there's some wonderful screenshots coming through from Tingana. He is an absolutely beautiful big cat. And I think he might be Viam's favourite. I think Viam is quite fond of a big male leopard. And he was chatting about Tingana being his favourite. Now that's how spoilt we are that we can have favourite leopards, because they all are so gorgeous. And we are very, very lucky to be able to spend as much time as we do with these incredible animals. Now, while he's having a snooze, this is a perfect opportunity to send in some questions. And you can do that by using the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Now, since I'm captaining the boat, admiral captaining, I can do both. I think I'll make up the rules as I go along. Lucy in South Bend's wondering if I've got more leg room in the boat. Well, Lucy, unfortunately, not really. It's about the same as the Landies. My legs still touch the steering wheel, so it's not that much bigger. It's bigger in the bottom. It's got a very big bottom, and a bit of a bigger front as well. But in terms of driving space, it was made for short people again. I tend to drive like this with my one leg only on the accelerator, just choosing the right gear to sail through the bush. I'm glad it's not a sailboat, though. I definitely prefer a boat that's got a bit of motorized power. James Richard is being quite amusing, saying Brian's thumb should be a parrot. What was the thumb today, Brian?
I just had a beard.
It was a beard. Oh, it was a pirate beard. It's a pirate beard. So we are sticking to that. Yeah, yar. Station looking for Brent. Go ahead. Well, I'm giggling over Game Drive radios.
How many stations with you guys?
Just me and Abel making his way.
Okay, go ahead. On the front of airport anyway, but yeah, coming.
He's static pizzle Shadula at the moment. Very nice.
Yeah, afternoon guys, I caught the message. Can I get a standby for that, please? Leaving the lodge.
Look at that, isn't that just stunning? So I've got some incredible photographs over the years of male leopards atop of termite mounds surrounded by chloris grass. Used to see many years ago to the south of here, who was actually called the Magnoleti male and came from the northern Sabi Sands, or the southern Magnoleti, and moved down towards the Sand River. And we used to nickname him Old Pale Face. He had a very pale face. Tingana's got a bit of a pale face, not quite as pale as Old Pale Face, and he was also a magnificent specimen. Now he's given us some real treats this year since he's taken over as the dominant male leopard. Lots of mating with the different ladies, and also I happened to witness a first for me with Tingana.
I think it must be that banana was overhead this morning. I'm not too sure. I haven't heard which one is that.
And I was tracking him around the Mwati River in the center of Djuma, and I was out on foot. And I walked up to a big termite mound to walk up and get a bit of a better view around. And as I did that, I saw him shoot like a rocket. And he grabbed a male impala no more than 30 meters from me. And that was the first and only time I've ever seen a leopard kill happen on foot. I then sprinted back to the car, and we managed to get there before the impala had stopped kicking. But it looks like he's going to have a snooze. Sorry, I'm going to be a bit busy on the game drive at the moment. There's quite a few people trying to get in here. I need to explain for them how to get in there. So while we discuss that, let's go see what Jamie's up to.
Well, Brent chats to the other guides, and I'm sure, as you can imagine, they've all got guests that are very keen to share in that moment with Tingana. I've come through to the southern boundary of our traverse area. And most of you know that our Queen of Djuma, the leopard that has her territory sort of in the center of Djuma, has been spending a great deal of time either on our side or either on our northern side or on our southern side. This morning she was hunting through this block that is off to my left, but her cubs, we suspect, are somewhere on my right. And the question is, did she manage to catch anything? And is she still on our traverse area, and has she gone to fetch those cubs? We're going to keep checking, and you will have to stay tuned to find out whether or not we manage to find the famous Karula. And for those of you watching on the internet, which is all of you, none of you had to go anywhere during the break. You get to stay tuned straight away to find out whether or not we figure out where she's gone. Now, there's no tracks coming out, which makes me suspect that she's somewhere around here still. And Kim, on the subject of questions, when we do our TV shows, no, absolutely not. Our show, I think it's one of the most fundamental parts of our show, is the questions that we get from the viewers, because otherwise it's not a safari experience, it's a show. And this is not really meant to be a show, it's meant to bring you the best possible imitation of a real live safari. What that means is that you will still be able to ask us questions on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, and we will still, what may happen, Kim, is that we may actually get far more than we would regularly do during our normal internet drives. That might mean that we cannot get through to absolutely everybody's question, as happens during our normal internet drives as well. But we will do our absolute best to be able to answer those that we can. Speaking of which, Charlotte, I do hope you're still watching. I'm so sorry, we got completely interrupted and completely distracted by the leopard. You were asking about animals' hooves and whether or not after an illness or something similar, the hooves of antelope, like the hooves of horses, might crack or grow in a strange manner. And the answer is yes, it does happen. But you don't see it as often as you might in a horse, because obviously a horse is a domestic animal, quite well protected and again looked after. Whereas an antelope with damaged hooves in some way is usually, I was going to say taken out of circulation, but that sounds terrible and that's not really what I mean, but is usually much easier prey for something like a hunting leopard or a hunting lion. There is a type of plant, and I think it's called a Crotalaria distica, but I'll have to double check that. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. That when it's eaten by certain antelope species, it actually affects their enzyme production that controls the growth of their hooves. And they end up with almost caricature-like curves. So their hooves just keep growing, and they curve upwards like a little elf shoe or something similar. And they flop. They can't really walk. It really, really restricts their movement. Now that's one of the ways in which an antelope has a disadvantage in terms of their hoof structure. Still focusing on finding Karula. I really want to check this area carefully. But while we do, a leopard in the hand is worth two in the bush, so to speak. So let's head back to Tingana.
Look at this magnificent male leopard, and we've just come out of the ad break. He's stopped, he's sitting on top of a termite mound, perusing the African bushveld that surrounds him. Now, this is not uncommon behavior for a leopard. He's been hunting. He had an unsuccessful hunt earlier. That's how we found him. We heard kudu alarm calling, giving that deep bass bark, telling everyone in the bush, leopard, leopard, be careful. So he's moved away from where those kudu were, and he's decided to take a rest on top of this large termite area. Now, there's a possibility he might get moving at any point, but we are going to make our way out of this sighting shortly to give space for another vehicle, but as soon as there's space again, we'll come back in here. Now, he is quite hungry, and Shane's wondering, how long do leopards normally go between meals? Well, Shane, they can go for as long as 4 days, 5 days, but it's generally 2 or 3 days. I'm saying it's most likely he's probably going to make a kill within the next 24 hours. Amazing. So beautiful. Welcome back. We've just come out of the ad break. He hasn't moved since you were last with us. He's still sitting atop of this large termite mound. And isn't this exciting? We're with the dominant male leopard of Djuma as he peruses over his domain. Now, he is quite hungry, so we're going to stick with him because there's a good chance he is going to hunt. Now, also, remember, we are live in the African bush. That leopard is snoozing in real time. You're seeing it at the same time I am. And if you want to ask a question about it, pop me an email. Use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, and we will hopefully be able to answer that question to the best of our ability. So even though his eyes were closed, watch his ears. He's always listening. So of course he's the dominant male leopard over the same area that Karula, our dominant female leopard, is. And Donna in South Carolina is wondering what would happen if Tingana, the dominant male leopard, happened to come across Karula, the dominant female leopard, and her cubs. But more specifically, what would he do with those cubs? Now, Karula mated extensively with him, and he does have a little bit of a reputation for eating cubs, even his own, naughty boy. But it seems like he's a bit more settled now, and he has been seen playing with Shadow's cub. So it's most likely that he wouldn't do anything untoward towards those cubs. But one must remember, this is wild, so you never know what's going to happen. He might be in a bad mood, he might be particularly hungry. So I would say there's probably 85% chance that nothing nefarious will happen to those cubs, but there is always that chance with male leopards. Most leopard cubs are actually killed by other male leopards, not by hyenas and lions, as is often thought. So while Mr. Tingana has a snooze, and we're chatting a little bit more about leopard cubs, Nisa, who's in North Carolina, saying she's heard that when a mom is killed, another female will adopt the leopard cubs of that female that has been killed. Nisa, not really. Unfortunately, and with leopards, if that female's died and she does have cubs, that is pretty much a death wish for those particular cubs. A death sentence, sorry, not a death wish. So guys, we're going to make space for Taxon to come in here and enjoy the sighting. We've got to be nice and share, but as soon as there's another space, we'll come back in. So we'll say goodbye to Mr. Tingana while he's snoozing. Hopefully we can come see him a little later. So while we gonna try sail this ship out of the thicket here and just get hold of Taxi on the radio. Now, I'm going to show you a little safari guide trick. This is what we would call a bush road sign. So I'm going to drop this when we get to the road, and that will show the next guys coming through which is the best way to get to that leopard. Tax, keep coming. I've made space for you. I'm going to drop a red bush willow branch on the road for best access in.
Yeah, I'm going to wait in bed.
It's payback for Mvula the other day. Thanks for. Just joking with Tax there. He's the guide from Djuma. He found us in Mvula a few days ago, so we found him Tingana. Tit for tat, you know. Of course, one of the ways we find these incredible creatures is by tracking their footprints. And Abby Sheck is wondering, how do we tell the difference between a male and a female leopard's footprints? Well, firstly, the male leopard is about double the size. Tingana probably weighs around 190 pounds, to maybe even as much as 200 pounds, whereas Karula, who's a female leopard, only weighs about 100 pounds. So being that much physically bigger, the tracks are almost sometimes double the size. So I'll do a quick comparison for you now. Let's just find a nice bit of soft sand a little bit further away from where the leopard's sleeping. This looks like it will be just dandy. Okay, now I just need to get my radio with me. Now, when we're out in the bush, you've got to learn to use what's around you. So, this shall be my pen, so to speak, and this will be my canvas. And let's smooth it down, make it a little bit easier to see. How's that looking, Brian?
Yeah,
good canvas? So I'm going to show you sort of a general size first for a female leopard track. Probably encompasses an area about that big. A male, can you see that? I know the light's a bit...
Kind of.
Okay, maybe you should dig it deeper. That's a male leopard. We'll make that a male leopard. That's a male leopard track, about average size, and a female leopard track probably about that. Now, I'm not very good at this, but I'll give it a go. We're going to try draw a leopard track. I've actually seen people who are absolutely incredible at it. So what I'm going to do, and they use their thumb. So we'll start with the toes. I cleared all the soft sand away. That was too much clearing. One must always be aware in the bush. I think I hear some elephants down there. We'll go look for them shortly. So I'll start. How many toes does a leopard have? I think I've forgotten. I'm just playing. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not very good at this, am I? So, and then the pad itself, I think, if I remember correctly, I saw someone do this. You use the base of your hand, and then you add the little lobes with your... How's that look, Brian? It's wonderful. I think it's not too bad. It's possibly the largest male leopard track that's ever looked, and looks very much like a lioness track rather than a leopard track. But there we go. Well, one must try. What is stalking us? I think it's actually Jamie who's stalking us. I think I see them through the bush. Anyway, well, I know she's looking for Queen Karula, and let's go see Jamie, because I think she got caught out. She thought she was going to catch us. But that's why awareness is always very important in the bush.
I think we thought we were sneaking up on them better than they were, but they've seen us, and apparently this raisin bush in front of us was not quite adequate protection to shield us from sneaking up on Brent and Brian, which was actually not my intention. I was just coming out from Karula's last position, having checked where she lay down underneath a jackalberry tree, but there is no sign of her there, and so we're going to continue on. Which way has Brent gone? He's gone that way. Brilliant. Okay, we shall go right. It has been determined. And off they go.
Here sails the great ship.
Here sails the great ship, says Viam. Oh, where'd it go? Behind the tree. That ship moves fast. So while the boat sails off to the west, we're going to head off to the east. Apparently she was seen lying up, but she was looking in the direction of Twin Dams Road, and that there were lots and lots of impala around the fire break. So what we're going to do is because we're going to start heading across in that direction and see if we can't see any signs of her. Might have been that I missed her tracks coming across the road. There have been lots and lots of buffalo about. And they might have trundled away across her tracks. Oh, there's a little bird in here, and it's going to be very difficult for Liam. And I know that he hasn't seen it yet. It's at the base. I think I'm going to have to go forward. You got it? You're amazing, Liam. How on earth did you do that? That was incredible. This might be one for some of you on your bird list because it is such a shy little bird. That was a black-crowned chagra. So have I. I've also come. Oh, there he is. Go back a bit. Liam's incredible. How he managed to see that bird, I do not know. Oh, it's hopping around at the base there. I think let's just stay for 1 second because it might move out into the open. That is a black-crowned chagra. We get to... Oh, there he is.
The leaves.
You see the leaves moving? He's just gone... Oh, just gone behind the tree. There where those leaves are moving, in the almost center of your screen, I think, is where he is. You can see the movement of the leaves, but not the bird itself. It's been a mission of mine to get a... Oh, there you are. Oh! And this is why chagras are so incredibly difficult to get on camera, because they don't really sit still for 1 second. It's a bird call that we often hear, but we hardly ever see. He's moved into the guari now, off to the left. Now we're just playing Spot the Chagra. It's like a mammoth game of hide and seek that I am not winning. Oh, come on, Chagra. So the black-crowned chagra has that beautiful whistling call that the drongos love to imitate. And then the brown-crowned chagra, what did you see there, Vian? Aha! Oh, those things that are right in front of me on the ground. Having a really solid grooming session. We've been focusing a lot on the large spotted cats. It's nice to stop for some of the smaller things, and it just goes to show when you sit still for a bit, you never know what you might find. Which includes an entire family of dwarf mongoose enjoying some bonding grooming time. Having a jolly good clean, getting all of the parasites and fleas and little ticks off each other, and giving us the perfect view of their sharp little teeth every now and again. And definitely one of my favorite things to stop and have a look at. A dwarf mongoose family. And this could well be the same group of dwarf mongoose that Liam and myself watched quite a while ago now, a few months ago, when they were confronted by a cobra and proceeded to move their little babies away from the den and into a different den site.
That's the bird you're looking for. Sorry, I want to interrupt you.
Sorry?
Take down the screen. Is that the
Oh! Where'd it go?
Yeah, take down the screen.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much, Liam. That is a brown-crowned chagra. And the one we were looking at, I think, earlier was a black-crowned chagra, but we've got a brown-crowned chagra, also previously known as a three-streaked chagra. That's brilliant. Well done, Liam. And unlike that whistling call of the black-crowned chagra, somebody once told me that the call of the brown-crowned chagra sounds like a cartoon horse rolling down a hill, because it starts with a bill snap and then kind of like a sort of cartoon tumbling whistle. So that was the brown-crowned chagra. So there you go, 2 chagras in one list. For those of you who keep track of all of our birds. The dwarf mongoose also practicing their yoga poses. Oh, there's 3 there. I didn't even realize. And I completely agree, Tony. Our cameramen are, I always think that they're probably some of the most talented, or at least skilled, camera folk in the world. Liam, of course, an absolute pro. And you know when something happens that our cameramen are going to be right there filming it. This grooming session is actually really sweet. It's got a young one and 2 older ones. The young one's got slightly flatter nose. Now, this social grooming is very, very important in terms of keeping each other bonded and also keeping track of the hierarchy within the group itself. So the alpha female and the alpha male usually get the most offers of grooming, but that's not always the case. They do enjoy a communal session involved with their sort of unifying their bonds. Having some serious grooming time, and as I said, it really does give us a nice view of those sharp little teeth. Now, I mentioned that this might be the same group that we saw moving their youngsters all those months ago, and by that stage, or by this stage now, those babies that we saw would be almost fully grown. Now, red dog, you were wondering at what point a dwarf mongoose grows up. Is it an adult at a year, or is it an adult around 6 months? And the answer is they are pretty much ready to be out and about and roaming with their family at around 3 months. And then yes, 6 months to 8 months, usually about 8 months, that they would be considered to be fully grown. They are having so much fun. The last few days have been particularly difficult for these dwarf mongoose. It has been so cold. And we know that in winter they tend to be somewhat lazy in terms of their waking up time, or at least their time to leave their burrows. And that's because as a tiny little animal, it's very easy for them to lose body heat and quite difficult to gain it back. You see those sharp little canines sticking out every now and again. If you look really carefully, you have a chance to see them. Oh, have a quick nibble of the armpit. They look like little Draculas with those fangs sticking out. They are having such a ball. Food time is over, and it's time to reunite after a day spent foraging. Definitely some of the most entertaining animals to sit and watch. Now, for you guys to get a sense of scale is really, really tricky. And dwarf mongoose is absolutely minuscule. I mean, if you stick out your hand from the tip of its nose to the tip of its tail, it probably wouldn't even reach from the tip of your fingers to the crease of your elbow. They're exceptionally small, only a couple of 100 grams. And their strength comes in the way in which their family is organized, and safety in numbers as well, and the fact that the entire family is devoted to helping to raise the young of the alpha female, including her offspring from a previous litter. They will be employed, so to speak, as, ooh, what's in that log? I want to see what's in there. Oh, maybe it's not so interesting. Well, then we'll just groom each other. Yes, the young will be employed or at least utilized as babysitters. I said the strength comes with a family bond. Anissa, no. A dwarf mongoose group doesn't... Okay, this is a slightly more tricky question. A dwarf mongoose family doesn't accept the external dwarf mongoose in a situation where the two clans have met up, or the two groups have met up. However, there has to be a way for dwarf mongoose to spread their own genes and to keep the gene pool fresh. And just bear with me 1 second. I know that Brent is calling me. I'm just going to ask him to stand by. Stand by 1. Now, what happens then is very often in clan disagreements or in mongoose group disagreements where they've encountered their neighbors, sometimes young females of breeding age, perhaps fed up of the fact that they haven't had an opportunity to have their own babies, will actually kind of sneak into the outskirts and basically abandon their family and hang around with this new group. It takes them a while to be accepted, but it does happen. And the interesting thing about that is that those females that disperse away from their family groups, on average, become the alpha female and are able to breed far sooner than those females that stay within their own family group. Now, it's not entirely clear exactly what it is that makes some of the mongoose disperse and some stick around in their original family group. Perhaps it's a personality or a character thing. Perhaps it's a genetic push that some have and others don't. But the dispersal of dwarf mongoose for both male and female is a really, really interesting part of their dynamics. Banded mongoose, which is the only other social mongoose that we get out here, do something very similar. They have a very, very similar family structure. I keep getting distracted by those really cute canines that stick out every now and again while they're grooming each other. Like little alligator teeth. Banded mongoose do something similar, except what they often do is when the two clans clash, or when the two groups of mongoose clash, the females sneak up to one of the strange males and mate with them and then go back with their family. Unfortunately, those babies often don't survive. Look at that. I do hope some of you are taking some amazing screenshots. They remind me, I know what it is they remind me of. It's like something out of the movie Ice Age with really long, exaggeratedly long canines sticking out. That's what it reminds me of. Sorry, I do need to find out what Brent was trying to tell me. I did hear him report that he found Karula's tracks crossing south. This has been a very special sighting. It gives you some really nice insight into the dentition of a dwarf mongoose. I mean, we don't often get to get close enough to see. Extraordinarily long canines, and they are, of course, the smallest predator on Djuma and in the Sabi Sands. Brent, sorry, please go ahead with your message. Copy that, thank you. I'm going to make my way west, I think, to Arathusa. Copy that, thank you. And Brent just wanting to let me know that he found Karula's tracks going south, which I suppose we sort of expected. We were hoping, though, that she wasn't going to go to the south of our boundary. And then he wanted to know what route I'm going to take so that we don't end up bumping into them once again. I think we'll leave our dwarf mongoose to their grooming session and carry on. I want to head across to Arathusa for a couple of reasons. One, we think that Sindile's last GPS point came through on Shirley's property. By that, I mean, for those of you who are unfamiliar, Sindile is a leopard that has just been re-released or released into the wild after spending several months in quarantine because he was exposed to a rabid dog. He's absolutely fine, he's free from rabies, and he's been tracked regularly with a GPS collar. But the collar's GPS signal comes through at random times and infrequently. And we're sort of kind of really keeping our fingers crossed that at some point he is going to pop into Arathusa or one of our traverse areas. However, he's very skittish, so we'll have to take things nice and slow. Right, well, we head across to the west. Let's send you back over to Brent to find out what his plans are.
Unfortunately, we went and found Karula's tracks, and she has moved out of our traverse zone. So that is a little bit sad. We are planning to return to Tingana, the dominant male leopard of Djuma, a little bit later on the safari. And in the meantime, we're just going to have a look, sail around to see what we can see. And we are, of course, not sailing on the ocean, but we are in a boat. And that is the name of the vehicle we're on. And we're going to sail through the woodland, seeing what we can find. Hi, Autumn. Autumn is 12 years old. Autumn, that is a beautiful name, and it's a beautiful time of the year. Now, Autumn's wondering, are there any animals that scare me out here? Well, Autumn, if I have to be 100% honest, they might give me a fright sometimes, but I don't think they scare me a lot. I have a lot of respect for the animals. So if you lose that respect for animals, that's when you can get into a potentially dangerous situation. So I thought I spotted something there, but alas, nothing. So autumn, because it is actually sort of autumn for us here. We don't really have seasons like you do in the northern hemisphere, but we are in winter, but this is probably the closest to our autumn. As you can see, the beautiful color change in the trees that's happening at the moment. There we go, an autumn tree for autumn. We're going to keep heading around. So where we initially found that male leopard at the beginning of the safari, there were a lot of other animals around. The kudu were barking, "Bo! Bo!" And obviously if you speak kudu, they were going, "Leopard! Leopard!" But I also noticed some zebra and some other animals around there, so we're going to go have a look if we can catch up with those creatures before we head back to that male leopard. Now, of course, we are live, so whatever I'm saying, you're saying. At the moment, we're seeing a beautiful, dusty African road. The dirt out here, as you could see a bit earlier, I don't mind rolling around in and getting involved in. It's good, clean dirt, in my opinion. And ever since I was... Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Ever since I was a little boy, possibly the hardest thing in the world for me is to keep clean. I can start immaculately clean, and it doesn't even take me 10 minutes before I've got dirt on my pants, on my shirt, on my hands, in my hair. But again, it is good, clean dirt. This is a question I'm going to pass on to my shipmates out in the back of the boat as well. And it's from Aaron in New Zealand. Of all the creatures we see and don't see too often, which is one creature you would choose to see more often of? So I'm going to let Brian go first. It's a tough one. Serval, which is a gorgeous little cat, and slightly... Oh, there's a buffalo hiding in here. I just heard him. And now, that's why you got to be careful of buffalo. They can disappear in a thicket. So, there we go. Brian's seldom seen little creature he would like to see more of is a serval. Herbert? Of all the small things that we don't see too often, what would you like to see the most of? Aardvark. So aardvark is also, I don't think it's ever been seen on a live safari. And we have seen them outside of safari times while driving up and down, but never on the live safari. And mine, I'm thinking, now this is quite a difficult one. I'm quite torn, I won't lie, because serval is definitely high up on my list. And for those of you who might not know what a serval looks like, it is a gorgeous little spotted cat. Oh, pushing the wrong. Now, they are really, really wonderful little hunters. There we go, that's what a serval looks like. Now, Brian and I were lucky enough to be together to have the first ever live serval sighting on Safari Live. Before that, there'd only been one dead serval sighting that was killed by Shadow, a female leopard. So there we go, that's the serval. Now, let's go to Herbert's seldom seen animal he'd like to see a lot more of. And that is the aardvark. Now that is a strange thing. Aardvark basically translates to earth pig. Now the only aardvark we've seen on Safari Live have been hanging in a tree. And Tingana, that male leopard we've seen already in the Sunset Safari, is an aardvark expert. I've even seen him spend nearly a whole day lying next to one aardvark burrow, waiting for them. Now I've seen aardvark quite regularly where I live at home, but I think I've seen them once here driving home from Sibambili one night. And now I still haven't answered my question. Now, as far as my research goes into this, it is one of my favorite little creatures, and it's a very little known creature. The last sighting of an aardwolf in the Sabi Sands was in 1970 something on Londolozi. Sorry, 1 second. Just stand by one. So an aardwolf is a member of the hyena family, but he eats termites. Look at that. Now that is just one of the most incredible little creatures for me, and I've been very fortunate to spend a lot of time with them in my younger years in Botswana. We found a den, and after a couple of months I was actually able to lie almost nose to nose with the babies out of the den. And that is, for me, probably the one of the small creatures that I would really like to see a lot more of. Also, there's a bit of bragging rights to see the first one in the Sabi Sand since the 1970s, and that always goes down quite well. I may or may not have a competitive streak in me. Okay, well, let's carry on, see what we can find. Just got to be on the Game Drive radio again quickly. Brent standing by.
Yeah, Brett, I just want to let you know that if you're interested to come back, it's only 2 hours now.
Copy, thanks very much, Tax. I'll make my way back there. So, very exciting news before we head into a little ad break. We are going to be making our way back towards that male leopard, and we're going to be spending probably the remainder of the Sunset Safari with that beautiful big cat, and I'm hoping he goes hunting. So very, very exciting news. And it seems like all the zebra and kudu that were here a little bit earlier have made a disappearing act. So we're going to head off into the advert break, and we're going to swing around and head back towards that massive male leopard. So still practicing the ad breaks, guys. I know it must be a bit funny for you, but we need to sort of get it down before the weekend. A very exciting weekend ahead for Father's Day. Yeah, we're just going to turn around quickly. We're heading back towards Tingana. While we do that, let's go see Jamie, who's got one of Tingana's favorite meals.
At first I thought they might have been barking at Tingana, but we're a little bit far away, and I've just realized these two rams are actually challenging each other, so I'm just going to be quiet to let you hear the sounds they're making. What's up, boy? So interesting. That's the typical impala alarm call, but they're not alarm calling. If they were, they'd be steering off in one direction. And I think they've got caught in a vicious cycle here. The one's alarm calling and the other one instinctively follows suit, but neither of them know exactly what it is they're shouting at. But they're looking around. At the same time, they kind of want to size up each other because they don't really want to turn their back on a potential opponent. And the hormones are just starting to drop now. Let's go forward a little bit because this is very interesting. I don't want to go too close because otherwise we'll disrupt them from what they're doing. And they're being quite fascinating at the moment. There's no leopard there or lion. They've just got confused. And we're coming to the end of the impala breeding season, but there's still residual hormones floating about. Some of the females still in the second estrus that they go through. And as a result, they don't really want to be all on their own, but at the same time they're aware of the fact that another male is a potential threat. So they're kind of constantly sizing each other up. Fascinating. And these live safaris give us a chance to actually watch the animals as they go through the changes that happen in their lives throughout the year. Oh, oh, oh. Come on, you two. Skip, skip. I'm busy. Now the one is very clearly larger than the other, the one that is advancing. And the male is sort of trying to back away and at the same time making sure that he doesn't present his back to his opponent. Oopsie, there's a tree there. You've got to look where you're going when you're reversing like that. And it almost looks like he's enticing the other male to fight with him, and yet he's constantly backing down. He's not initiating a fight. Oh yes, let's pull the silly faces to go with the whole display. Let's go forward a little bit and keep track of these two. Oh, no, don't do this, Rusty. No, Rusty, no! We've got to come back into TV after the imaginary adverts.
Give it a wiggle.
I'm giving it a wiggle. I'm giving it a wiggle. Oh no! and welcome back. While you were away, the impala were doing something fascinating. So why don't you have a look at this clip? One is very clearly larger than the other, the one that is advanced. At first I thought they might have been barking at Tingana, but we're a little bit far away. And I've just realized these two rams are actually challenging each other, so I'm just going to be quiet to let you hear the sounds they're making. Oh, there you go. Something fascinating happening with the impala. We're going to now pretend... I can't. Okay, sorry, the hysteria has set in slightly. I think it's maybe possibly the exhaustion. Come on, Rusty, please turn. Okay, one more time, come on. Give it a wiggle. No, Rusty, please not on Gowrie Main. Please not on Gowrie Main. So while I attempt to recover myself and get Rusty started, my apologies for the complete hysterics, but this is hilarious. I'm going to send you back over to Brent, who's on his way back to Tingana.
So we just arrived back with this dominant male leopard. He's just moved slightly. Oh, he's got a little bit uncomfortable in the last spot he was lying. Oh, it looks like he's going to settle in for another snooze. Well, let's get a little bit closer. So you'll notice we do drive over the occasional bush or tree, and here we go. Let's just get into the spot. How's that for you, Brian? So as I was saying, we do drive over the odd tree, but we choose which species we drive over very carefully. We never drive over any slow-growing trees. We always make sure it's the faster growing trees. And also, if you have a quick look around, and I will show you a little bit later. Oh, look at him trying to get comfortable. Very sweet. It's cold out there, even if you are a big kitty. And we'll discuss the trees a little bit later. Let's just have a look at him. What a beautiful big boy. Now, Anne in Texas is wondering how long he's been the dominant male in this area, and how long is he likely to stay dominant for. So Anne, quite interestingly, he's been a dominant male probably for about 2 or 3 years already, but he was dominant far more to the west of us, in Arathusa. Then a new male called Anderson arrived on the scene and pushed him further and further to the east, and he lost a lot of what was his old territory to that new male, and so he moved into this area and pushed Mvula further on, and Mvula is actually now past his prime, so he's a nomadic male running between the different males' territories. He's been both in Anderson and Tingana's recently, and Tingana has very much established himself in this area at the moment. He's actually been extending, from what I've been hearing, north into Buffelshoek Hook. So very, very interesting. He is holding a massive area at the moment. Now, the one thing about territories is you don't want to be too big, because it's very hard to control a massive area. Of course, there's lots of weak boundaries, so to speak. But at the moment, Djuma forms sort of the center core of his territory. Isn't he just beautiful? So, as I said, he's been a dominant male for about 3 years, and he will continue to be a dominant male probably for another good 4 or 5 years. Now, what's incredibly interesting with male leopard territories and how they work, they do move, and him moving is probably about on par with the research. But we'll continue this discussion once we get back from Jamie, who's got some very active impala.
Oh. Well, the impala are manically chasing each other around. So when you left us, we couldn't move the vehicle. Magic secret agent VM managed to get it started. It now seems to be working absolutely fine. You can see by the dust that is spread across the road just how violent that clash was between those two male impala. And they've totally separated now. They've gone off their different ways. There's a very clear victor. He shoved his opponent into the tree that was on the side of the road. And then as soon as the opponent could, he gave way. There's the big male, there's the victor. He's chased the other guy further to the south. And as soon as he could, the opponent sort of backed away and raced off. And the victor gave chase in a sort of a victory lap through the bushes and around further to the south. So that's what's happened. I have recovered myself. I'm no longer in hysterics. My apologies for that. It was just hilarious. And Rusty seems to be starting just fine. I told you, Secret Agent VM has a special technique for such things. But don't tell anyone he's a secret agent, because that's why he's called a secret agent. It's only because I've cracked the code. I've figured it out. VM just smiles. Smiles. I know, I just told everybody. I'm sorry, Viam. It's okay. It can be like a double bluff. And I think that concludes our impala sighting. And so we can continue on our quest to get to Arathusa and find out where that male lion from this morning decided to wander off. Now while we go there, let's go back to Brent and his leopard.
As you can see, this big boy has not moved an inch, but quite often with the big cats, to get those spectacular sightings, you have to play the patience game. And a little saying I like to banter about, I don't know if I can remember it, I haven't said it in so long, Brian, is that, oh, I can't, I actually can't. No, but basically what it boils down to, you have to put the hours in, and often you sit many hours with sleeping cats. When we remember, a male leopard probably sleeps on average 18 hours a day, and you've just got to have the patience to wait for that excitement, that movement, that hunt, that fight, whatever it might be. The only way to do it is to spend time with these animals. And of course, there's nowhere I'd rather be apart from sharing this incredible experience live with you wherever you might be in the world. And remember, I love it when you ask me questions, so you can do that by using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, and hopefully I'll be able to answer those questions. And if you stump me, all the better. It means I've got to go do some homework. So Tingana might sound like quite a strange name to you, and Abhishek's wondering who named him. I'm not sure. It would have been one of the lodges to the west of us. Tingana means shy. So when he originally arrived in this area, he was a very unrelaxed male leopard, and with time and effort, he's become a nice relaxed male. He's a dominant male, and probably the most common big male we see on the drives. So Tingana means shy, and I think it maybe Arathusa, Elephant Plains, they would have been the ones who named him. Now, I don't know if we're picking that up, Brian, on the ambient.
There you go.
Here we go. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Okay. Now, if you could hear that, I think it's time to put your brains to work. So for our birders out there, who can tell me which bird was calling there? It does sound a little bit like rusty bed springs. If you want, actually, I'll give you another listen. It was a little bit faint, but if you know the name of that bird, oops, pushing buttons on radios, send me the answer to the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, and I will see if you are correct or not. So, hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, and I will play it a little bit louder so you can hear it a bit more clearly. Now, it is one of my favorite of the family. It is also the smallest of the family we get here. There's some little clues for you. There's the call a little bit. Here we go. I hope you guys can hear that a little bit better. And I'm going to let you guys use your imagination to why it was nicknamed the rusty bedspring bird. I'm guessing he's probably going to get moving. And it's very difficult to say. He could get moving in the next 5 minutes. He could get moving in the next 3 hours. You never know. But it is always, as I say, worth playing the patience game. Now, the big cats all sleep quite long hours, and Ginny's wondering who sleeps longer, the lion or the leopard. And Ginny is all the way from the great state of Texas. Ginny, on average, lions will sleep longer than leopards. Leopards tend to be a little bit more active, not that much more active. Male leopard probably sleeps on average 17 to 18 hours a day, whereas a male lion sleeps up to about 20, sometimes even more if he's got a full belly. And you see there's a gentle breeze in the grass. You just see the tips of that chloris grass almost floating. Now, if you didn't know he was there, he would disappear. That's quite often why leopards like to lie on termite mounds, because if you have a look to the left, his head could easily be just another bobble of the termite mound from a distance. Could be just another chimney. So it's always a good spot for them to lie, and sometimes unsuspecting prey might meander very close to them. Isn't that incredible? How you can just disappear in plain sight. I suppose that is one of the leopard's greatest advantages, with that incredible camouflage they have. So a very big well done to RG and Penny, who got that bird spot on. It is indeed a Coqui francolin, and one of the prettier of the smaller francolin species. And we're going to have a look at him now. We can hear him calling. There we go. Now that would have been a male Coqui francolin calling. Very, very pretty. Also the smallest of the francolin species we get around here. Slightly more retiring than the crested and Natal. So one of the more difficult ones to see, along with my favorite of all favorite francolin species. And that is the Shelley's francolin. There we go. Now, I don't know, I just find them incredibly beautiful, the different patterns and colors. And they've also got a wonderful call. And another francolin you hear far more often than you see. Now, that's the joy of being in the bush. You never know what you might hear or might see while you're sitting next to a sleeping leopard. We're going to continue to play the patience game with Tingana, the dominant male leopard, over Djuma, Arathusa and Cheetah Plains, or half of Cheetah Plains at the moment. And we're going to be hoping he is going to move towards the treehouse waterhole for a drink and maybe a little hunt. But we're about to go into an ad break, so we'll see you soon. And don't worry, we'll make sure you don't miss a thing. As we can see, Tingana is riveted with the ad break that is happening at the moment. He is very excited by it. Of course not, he's had a snooze. Now, I wonder where he's come from, because the last tracks of his we had were going out miles away from here. So I think he's been walking some very big distances at the moment, trying to maintain this large territory that he has. Oh, excuse me. Now he's got a little bit of a limp, and OP in Minnesota is wondering, is that going to affect his hunting? I don't think so. It doesn't look very major to me at all. OP might be a fraction of a yard slower, but I don't think it's going to affect his ability to hunt. Now, these big cats are incredibly resilient and are able to take a lot more punishment than we would ever expect, and recover from injuries far faster than we would ever expect as well. So we're going to sit here playing the patience game with Tingana. While we do that, let's go see what Jamie's up to.
And Jamie is just casually driving along, in Knobthorne Open, and I say casually, I'm just trying to find a good position to show you my lovely surprise that I've got planned for you. Hold on one moment. I'm going to try and get a better position. My word. Hello, boy. Look who we have. He came as such a surprise that I nearly drove past him, fast asleep on the edge of the open area. And this is the gentleman that gave us the slip this morning. Oh, big sigh there. Wow. The Birmingham boys no longer looking quite as sort of scarless as they were when they first arrived. Definitely been in a couple of fights. Now, this is the boy that was calling this morning. We were trying to find him and we were really seriously struggling. He just kept we just kept missing each other, essentially. Wow, look at that. Now those scars tell a serious story of this lion's last year as one of the dominant males of the Birmingham Boy Coalition. Scraps with each other, scraps with females, and probably fights with other males, although we haven't heard much about them. Nevertheless, they've had some serious physical action since they first moved in as the dominant males. Now we're on Arathusa, not far away at all from where we last saw the Matimba males. At the moment, I'm not 100% sure which Birmingham boy this is. Oh, but I think he might give us a nice glance. Hello, boy. I know the feeling. Bad hair day after waking up. I think this might have been the male that was mating with that Nkuhuma lioness. He's just gotten up, I think, to... Oh, I thought he was actually going to relieve himself, but apparently he's decided that that buffalo thorn is going to be the absolute best place to lie down. His mane was so muzzed up and messy when he got up. And it's an interesting choice of resting place. And with all of those twigs and thorns, it can't really be the most comfortable. It was almost like he said to us that he was a bit tired of the paparazzi and he was going to go and hide his face behind the tree. Fortunately for him, it's still very much in an open area, so we will be able to reposition in a moment just to have a slightly better view. I think he's on his way to join his buddies south of our boundary, and the day just got far too exhausting, and he decided that it was time to rest and relax and wait until the fall of night before moving on.